did you have a plan of what you were going to do, and did any of that change along the way? Did you have that one, here's what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to get into a position where I can do this, and then maybe I can do that? Or did you just kind of let it flow and you went when you just kind of went with the flow as it was going?
No, I had a plan. I mean, my goal was to get to the Classic in a position to bet some weighted version of the exacta box that included authentic, improbable, and Tom's d'etat. The less money I had, the more my focus would be on authentic. And so, but I feel like if I got to the Classic, I wanted to do an exacta box with those three horses heavily weighted towards authentic. If I had even more money, I would have thrown Tiz the Law in underneath. But I really felt it was a 3 or 4 horse race, and I thought authentic would get a great trip, might get loose on the lead and be hard to run down. And so I felt very confident he'd finish first or second. So I wanted to get to that point. I wanted to have money to get to that point. I also knew I was going to go all in on Monomoy Girl. And initially, when I was thinking about the tournament, I thought about, I bought 2 entries. So I had $7,500 bankroll on each entry. I thought about just punting my way to Monomoy Girl. And what I mean by that is just betting $600 a show, meeting my minimums, and going all the way to Monomoy Girl, then doubling my money and betting that into the Classic. I ended up deciding not to do that, and I crafted a couple of horses that I wanted to target and give myself a little bit more flexibility. So I looked at potentially Vequist, Nix Go, and Yalpon is 3 horses that I might, bet, 2,500 on, depending on my bankroll at that point, or a third of one of my tickets, to get me, to give me a little bit more wiggle room, to allow me a little bit more flexibility to try to score out earlier. But I knew where I wanted to be. I knew the Classic was the race where I wanted to make my big stand, and I knew I was going to go all in on Monomoy Girl. So those 2 things are what I knew I would do. And the reality is, I got to Monomoy Girl with about as much as I would have had if I just punted my way through, and I sort of stuck on strategy, and it worked out.
Yeah, it's funny because I had a plan. It's different, but mine kind of did change a little bit. On Friday, my plan was to bet the 3 favorites that I liked just to win. If 2 of them won, if one of them won, whatever it wasn't going to make me feel too dirty. I'd be okay. I'd wake up the next morning with 7,500 on each, and then here we go. I did know that Monomoy Girl was going to be a big lean for me. I never predicted that I would have 40,000 at that point. But when the leaderboard, when I woke up Saturday, I think the leader had like 130 or something. And so I realized that I kind of had to change my plan a little bit and needed more money when I got to Monomoy Girl. So we'll talk about what we did on Friday. But the biggest change in my strategy is I went all in early with the doubles, with the turf sprint into Nix Go and complexity, pressing Nix Go. And I did that because I knew that if I wanted to catch the person at 130 or whatever it was, I needed to get a bigger bankroll to bet on a Monomoy Girl. So then I could execute my end game, which was to try to do a safe double Dutch situation, weighted doubles. You said weighted exacta. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I was doing weighted doubles, trying to get alive to 130, 140, 150, whatever it was going to be. So my plan kind of stayed intact to a certain extent. Although let's jump into the first race that I bet on Friday. I think it's the first race you bet as well, where my plan was to bet $600 and win on Golden Pal to win. I felt like the horse is a very likely winner. I understand your play with punting, but I was just going to try to pick up some pieces there. But I guess maybe I had an adult beverage already in the day, and I started feeling a little bit more courageous, and I bet 1,000 to win on Golden Pal. And you just bet Golden Pal to show, right?
No, I just punted here. I ended up betting Golden Pal. I keyed him in all my, I just singled him in my pick 5s and pick 6s and everything involved. And so I was like, let's just keep the money. If he gets nipped at the wire, or has that wide trip, I just wanted to, I just wanted to move the ball and get rid of one of my 3 minimums going in.
All right, so I think we got this nice little thing set up. We're going to be able to watch the Juvenile Turf Sprint here. There's a point in this race, and I played a big pick 5 as well this day. You talk about playing outside the contest. Mm-hmm. You see Golden Pal here to the outside. The 14 takes the lead in about 3 jumps. I love this view, by the way. And right about here, I think the whole place that singled Golden Pal started screaming, "Irad, what are you doing?"
Yeah, I couldn't tell what happened. So I was watching, there were two feeds. There was the players feed and there was the NBC feed. And, one of my TVs is faster than the other. And so I was watching the pan view the whole time and never got the overhead view. And I couldn't tell what happened. And, in some ways I almost thought he was getting pulled up or something. And so, I was very worried. Effectively, he ran two races as a result, right? He made that lead, pulled back, made the lead again. Then they came after him. And so, I don't think I was worried too much to show, but certainly with them coming in, them coming after him late, I was worried about all the pick fives and pick sixes that all ran through him.
Yeah, me too. I think at a certain point it started to feel good, and for whatever reason, the way that I operate, when I see the ball go through the hoop, I just feel better. I take a deep breath. I start playing with a little bit more confidence the rest of the way. And I know that it seems silly that someone might think that Golden Pal, that 1,000 to win on Golden Pal, helped me play better, but it really kind of does. I do well in those situations. How good of a horse do you think he really is?
Again, this is not a division I have any feel for. It's not a division that, at least domestically, it's not really rewarded. To be a good turf sprinter is not. There's not a lot of money for them. There's not a lot of Grade 1 races, and so I'm very curious to see what they do with him down the road. I'm very curious to see if he's able to sort of go on, or just sort of a freak 2-year-old turf sprinter. I don't have any clue. I have no feel for it. Have no feel for what they might do. I think easily he's lengths the most talented in this race, but it's an unusual race. I mean, these are. I thought it was a strange addition to the Breeders' Cup. I think it's they're doing it to increase Euro participation, and increase Euro participation means increase Euro nominations. And so, I don't know what was behind him. So that's my take on it.
Did you? Now, I did not bet the juvenile turf. You didn't either, right?
I took New Mandate and Cadillac. I decided in handicapping that I was going to focus on dirt races. I'm a much better handicapper in dirt races, and so I certainly looked over the turf races, but I called my sources to find out what they thought. So I called Sean Borman, I called Pat Cummings to hear what he had to say about all the Euros. The one thing about not going to Keeneland is I was able to listen to all the great podcasts out there. I listened to Nick Luck. I listened to the Matisse brothers on the Sport of Kings podcast. I bought the premium package, and so I let other people do the work on the turf for me. I'm not afraid to use someone else's picks, right? And so in turf racing, I just don't really have the first clue about it. It's crazy. I teach basically a course on betting horses, and as we move more towards turf racing, I find myself more and more lost. So Pat had pushed New Mandate and Cadillac. They seem like the quality Euros. I did a double from them into VQuest. My sort of plan for the day was I was going to bet about a third of my bankroll, about $2,500 to $3,000 on VQuest. Earlier in the week, I thought I was going to go all in on VQuest. I backed down a little bit. And so I was going to start it off by playing $300 doubles, Cadillac New Mandate into VQuest. New Mandate was ranked the whole way around. Cadillac didn't get a great trip, and the Maker horse won at 30-1. Luckily, he was a B on my pick fives. But $600 down the drain, no big deal. Like you say, getting the ball through the hoop. I got a little bit nervous at that point. I thought, at that point, I started to worry about my VQuest pick. I thought, am I really that confident in VQuest? Is she, am I really seeing something from a handicapping perspective, or am I just a fanboy who had bet her in the spin away, who liked her because she was Parks-based, Butch Reed? I had a horse that was in that maiden race at Parks where VQuest ran. And so, I started to question myself about VQuest. And I actually backed down my wager on VQuest. And instead of, going a couple grand to win, I ended up playing a $600 double from VQuest to Aunt Pearl. And then I bet VQuest heavily in cash on the side. I'd done the same thing a year ago where I thought I was going to go all in on British Idiom and kind of chickened out. And I chickened out again. And so as we get to the Juvenile Fillies, I have a lot of cash on VQuest. I have a nice double with the Aunt Pearl that will pay well. And again, the rail I think was pretty good, and she drew inside. And I was hoping she would be overlooked in the betting because of finishing second in the Frisette, and I got 6-1. So it was a good number for cash betting, and a $600 double to Aunt Pearl. If I could hit that, it'd really open things up for me.
Yeah, we'll watch the Juvenile Fillies here. This is a race where I thought that the rail was actually not. Well, I don't know if we have the Juvenile Fillies. Maybe we do. We'll watch Aunt Pearl first. But Aunt Pearl was one that felt like this. I kept talking about it all week. It felt like a newspaper of record remix. The Lope de Vega, the front running, the fast. And she was unbelievable in this race. Were you nervous at any point? I was standing with someone that said she's going too fast. Did you feel that way during the race?
Well, I remember when she ran at Keeneland last, they did that first quarter in 22, and then she settled to 46. And so I was worried when she popped out of there. But when she was loose at this point, I started calculating, I started thinking about that, that big double ad cash, because she was going so easily. And I thought again, and maybe I was seeing things. I thought the turf there, you have to be a little bit closer anyway. And I thought it was playing that way. And she was just going so smoothly. When they popped up 47, I kicked back and, didn't even have to cheer that hard going home. I knew she was training great. I knew they were very confident in her. I was very worried. I knew they were going to send. So they made no bones about sending. And I thought initially maybe her best strategy would have been to sit right off Campanelle. But when Campanelle didn't go, Flo went with authority, and it's over here, right? I mean, she's got this nice lead, and at this point, you're just waiting for the wire to come. I typically, put my finger over those other horses behind her and start counting down when I see the 16th pole, 6, 5, 4, 3, and hope no one comes. And so at that point, I cashed my double, paid $17,340. I think it vaulted me in the 5th place with about 24 grand. And, look, it was day one. I don't even look at the leaderboard really until the middle of day 2. I knew 24 grand was a great place to be, but, that money could disappear very quickly. But, I felt here I was rolling. I can now play a lot looser. I can now take chances to try to make the big score. Right. And so, and so I was really pleased. I was nervous when VQuest won, and I only had it lined up to the Aunt Pearl double. But Aunt Pearl really, when she got open lengths lead at that point, I was like, I did the right thing here. All is good.
Before we watch VQuest, I do want to talk about what I did with Aunt Pearl, like an idiot, which often happens to me in these contests. I start getting excited. I start having fun, and I was planning on just betting 600 to win on her. 600 to win on Golden Pal. I bet 1,000 to win on Golden Pal. And then I suddenly started feeling myself, and I bet a $600 double with Aunt Pearl into Jackie's Warrior instead of just betting Aunt Pearl to win like I had initially decided I was going to that morning. So that was me misbehaving. But VQuest, let's watch the Juvenile Fillies. This was the race where I felt like the inside was good on Friday. And this was the race that kind of confirmed it for me. Not that I didn't think that VQuest was good, but man, when she got down there on the inside, and I think you'll see it from this angle, she looked like she was going to be extremely tough to beat.
Yeah, and it really helped that the one horse didn't break, and so I knew they would show a little bit more speed. They had let Day Out of the Office get the jump on her last time, and I knew she was training really well. And here she just settled behind horses, and I felt very good about her position at this point. I had thought the rail was good. I don't know that the Juvenile ran a little bit differently, and so maybe it wasn't as strong as I thought. But at this point, she's just sitting this perfect trip. The question was going to be, was it ever going to open up, and was she going to be good enough? With Joelle on there, I knew that she was going to get a great finish. And here she's just settling along. I felt really good about her. Dad of the Office, a nice filly, had gotten the jump on her last time in the Frisette. And so, I was a little worried about catching her.
But how much of this opinion, Marshall, were you anti Princess Noor?
I mean, that was a good part of it, but it was more pro Vequist. I just thought Vequist would be forgotten. I thought I would get 6 to 8 to 1 because, I feel like she fit in with these other big horses and that everyone was forgetting about her because she was second. And I thought her race was just as good as Dad of the Office. She just didn't get the jump on the field, but she came running hard at the end. And, here the C's part, right? If you watch there's a helmet cam that they showed, and it actually tightened up here, and you can see Vequist and Joel go through that hole. And at this point, I've got painters in my house, and there's people in my house doing other things. And I'm screaming and yelling for for Joel to open up, get through that hole, and so I was thrilled because I had a big cash bet down, but then I was kicking myself I was like, I did the same thing as I did a year ago with British Idiom. That here I had an opinion that I felt very strongly about, and all I had was a $600 double. And much like you're saying with Aunt Pearl to Aunt Pearl to the Juvenile to Jackie's Warrior for you, I was thinking, here's my great opinion, and I've only got it if Aunt Pearl wins, and so that was somewhat frustrating. I think it's easy to get in the trap in this contest of not taking what they give you, right? I want 6 to 1 is nice, but I wanted to make it into something bigger, right? I want, you want to try to, get 20 or 40 or 60,000 back. You want to try to win the contest by making a smaller bet, trying to be too precise. And again, the good news for me is it worked out with Aunt Pearl, and it gave me room to open up. And I had bet enough in cash that it sort of solidified what was going to be a very good Friday for me. And that's another thing, as I already mentioned earlier, I'd really struggled with my cash betting on top of the contest. It's a very dangerous proposition. I flew back last year from Santa Anita thinking, well, I lost both my entries in the contest and I got killed in cash. So I basically doubled my losses. And so it's something that you basically, it's something that is very risky that way. But in this case, it allowed me sort of it was a big relief because it allowed me to take a lot of chances. And really, it allowed me to treat the BCBC like funny money because I'd won so much with Vequist and I had won so much over the course of Friday that I was already ahead on the BCBC no matter what. And I didn't have to think about it as, hey, this is the value of buying a car, right? You start thinking about that and you start, I mean, I can't help but start shaking if you start thinking that way, right? And
yeah, for those that don't know, you're an economics professor, so being fiscally responsible is at least something that comes into your head. I've heard you say it before that you struggle with the idea of throwing away $40,000 at the end of a contest trying to win it. Did that come into play for you at any point, or did you feel pretty free this year?
I felt very free this year because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to win the thing. I already had my NHC seats, and I had such a good day in cash on Friday. I was going to be ahead regardless, and I was in a good place of mind where I wasn't thinking about it. And I think that's key. I am a loss averter, and that is I don't like to lose. And then when I get ahead, I tend to get really conservative. And so I think at least from a mental standpoint, I played well. But I think once you start thinking about the money and what it is, I think that's part of the battle in this contest, because a lot of people, then they are playing to hit the board or they're playing to conserve their money. And especially if they get ahead, they can be too conservative to ultimately win the contest.
Now, did you have anything? Like I said, my only thing with the Juveniles, I was alive to Jackie's Warrior for. I think I was alive for 12,000 total, between the two entries. So it was obviously would have been a nice pop if I would have got Jackie's Warrior. I didn't have essential quality anywhere, even on my pick fives. I was trying to beat that horse. Did you have anything going here, or was that it for you for the day?
So I was in on essential quality and reinvestment risk to beat Jackie's Warrior. I veered towards reinvestment risk because of the price. I was getting 6-1 versus 3-1. I also thought he was going to get the rail trip. I was worried that essential quality was going to be stuck outside. I also, essential quality's prep race was, he ran really well, but everything went his way. He had the easiest trip. And so I went to reinvestment risk. I made, I don't remember what it was, but something like $1,500 win bet. And I boxed them in exactas. And so, but most of my play was through reinvestment risk. I was live in the pick 5 for $1.50 to all 3 of the big horses. And so, that put me in a good spot.
I thought reinvestment risk. I kind of got nervous about reinvestment risk and just went ahead and said, forget it. I'm going to ride with Jackie's Warrior. But I thought reinvestment risk was going to end up getting a good trip down on the inside. And you see here, it's kind of tossing his head, never really actually got to the rail at that point of the race. Eventually ends up down there right here, but then kind of comes off of it.
Yeah, I thought he was okay here. I did see the turning of his head, and I thought he was okay here. I thought my 2 horses were okay. I couldn't tell, I couldn't tell how fast they were going up front. I did think it was unusual that Jackie's Warrior wasn't on the lead. I didn't anticipate that. I thought he was going to, just sort of, bury those horses. And if he was going to be going too fast, it would be in front of those other horses. And so I didn't have a sense whether they'd start coming back to us or not. I mean, at what point did you realize you were in trouble?
Right. Like almost here-ish. Like he starts to kind of range up, but then I started thinking he's ranging up 3 wide. And then I saw the fractions and they were going 45. And at this point I started thinking, good thing I got some money left over tomorrow. I had $6,900 each on each entry. My goal was 7,500 when I woke up the next day at worst case scenario. So I wasn't too far off. Doing bad in this contest on Friday can really throw you for a tailspin.
No doubt.
You wake up on Saturday feeling like you got to, shoot for the stars and it can mess you up.
Yeah, it's such a weird race with this, the way I guess were these juvenile races, they were run with a short stretch, right?
Yep.
And so, I didn't know what the hell was going on. And so I was focused on reinvestment risk and he was flattening out. I've heard where he might be a 1-turn horse. That could be the case. I only picked up Essential Quality late. I didn't even know who those horses were that were on the lead. I was just lost. And then Essential Quality got up, and again, it worked out for me in cash. It didn't help in the contest, but my cash play just put me in a position where I could be very, very loose on Saturday. And I'm with you on Friday. It's just I wanted to push my money around on Friday, not really hurt myself. And that probably caused me to back up on VQuest. But the good piece of news is I got through with the double, and I was sitting in a great spot. I was sitting in 7th after day 1, and so I felt great about Saturday because I had a plan for Saturday. But I would be allowed to mess around in the earlier races to try to make a big score early and really win this thing. Now, there was a guy who jumped out and had $130,000 after the first day. So I don't know, at that point, I don't know that I was thinking so much. I thought, you probably can't win with this person at 130. But I felt in a good position to hit the board, finish top 5, but yeah, there was
I think what's important about that point is I felt the same way is not because that you or I didn't believe that we would try to get to 130. I just felt like everyone else would start trying to get to 130 and then it would suddenly get to 200. Mm-hmm. I think I want to say that early in the day at Del Mar, somebody hit that Stormy Liberal exacta and like rocketed up. And then people started coming and it just became like when you have 400 people behind you, that mathematically someone's going to likely catch you. And we'll talk about that when we get to the last race, about the idea of having to hit this last race in this contest to win it and whether or not that's a problem. Did you do anything on the undercard stuff on Saturday? Because that was an important time for me. I didn't even see Nashville run because that's when I was on the phone with our friend Sean Borman when he convinced me to use glass slippers. But did you do anything early in the card?
No, I thought about doing a $2 show bet on Nashville just so when people started to look through the contest, they're like, what is he looking for? So I did watch those races closely. Back to your other point before we go on, I thought I didn't think the other scores would bump up so much as I thought if the leader had 130, there's a good chance that he gets 200 early in the day, right? That, he's probably got 30 of that money that he can just be really aggressive with. And so bets that our little $600 bets turn into $5,000 bets for him. And I had thought, I'm curious to ask you, what did you come into this contest thinking a number that you would take to win?
No, and I don't ever do that. People always ask me, what do you think is going to take to win the NHC? What do you think the cut line is going to be? All of those things, they don't matter until the races start running. If a 75 to 1 shot wins, that obviously can start changing the equation. If a bunch of favorites win, it changes the equation. I just what I've always tried to do is just play my opinions wherever they lay. A couple of years ago, I bet my entire bankroll, $16,000 or whatever it was, on newspaper of record, and then I went from there. This is a situation where my big play was later. I want to be in position to win it based on my opinion late. Mm-hmm. And so you try to get your bankroll as big as you can, because I do not want to have to narrow my opinion to win it, because Authentic was not my top pick. So I usually don't try to play that math game, but I leave the math to you and Eric Bialik.
Well, I thought this would be a high scoring tournament. So I thought I would have to get to 200. I just felt like this is going to be one of those Breeders' Cups where there were a lot of sort of fundamental handicapping lessons on the card. Whether it be, I thought Princess Nora would be one that was going to really open things up for horse players, because she was going to take a lot of money, and I felt like most of the contest people were going to be against her. I thought to some extent there were going to be some interesting prices because of that in the Classic. I thought the Gamine Serengeti Empress thing, the way that the Sprint might have gotten bet. So I thought the numbers were going to be big, and obviously, the person who had 130 after day one and was in first and third, right? I mean, that really opened things up. And at that point, I thought, well, let's just have a good showing, because I thought that money would grow. I didn't think that we would be basically at 130. That would be sort of the number behind us at the end. So
right. So did you bet the Filly Mares? You didn't bet the Filly Mare Sprint, did you?
I did. And I think what's interesting about this is we both had the conversation with our mutual friend, Sean Borman. And I had listened to the professional, the pro players pod. Again, the one great thing about not going this year, I missed the camaraderie. I missed the celebration that we would have had on Saturday night. We would have, closed down the bars. But I did spend a lot of time listening to all the podcasts. I talked to Sean. I talked to my friend Clay Sanders. And Sean was so emphatic about his love for glass slippers that he talked me into it. Now, I got cute. I ended up playing Serengeti Empress, Sconsin, and Sally's Curlin, a double, into glass slippers. I wanted to hit a home run. I wanted to triple my, the doubles, the blended doubles I had would pay 21,000 instead of, if I bet the similar amount to win, it would have paid 7,000. So I just got too cute. I thought, I thought Gamine was a little bit of a fraud, and I thought either Serengeti Empress would cook her, or that one of the two closers would come in, not Bells to one. And so I don't know what I was thinking. And when Gamine ranged up and then pulled off by 8, I was like, well, the public was right on this one. But the unfortunate part is that Sean's opinion was brilliant. And again, like I said, I was going to lean on my friends on these turf races, and he could not have been more right. And I mean, he's an excellent handicapper, and I wasn't able to benefit from that. Even in my cash betting, I screwed that up. So I got too cute.
Yeah. So on to the turf sprint. That was where in the day, and we'll talk the Filly and Mare turf. I didn't have a strong opinion. The mile, I didn't have a strong opinion. The sprint, I didn't have a strong opinion. And I realized if I wanted to get to that point where I could go all in on Monomoy Girl and then try to get alive without taking much risk late, I had to do something. Here. And a lot of people might think it's sick to bet 13,000 or whatever is on a turf sprint, because they seem to be so random. They don't scare me as much. And so what I did here is I went all in using the 3 Imprimis, the 6 Glass Slippers, Leinster, Alexandra, and Extravagant Kid, the 14, into mostly Knicks Go, but a little bit of complexity. So did you come back and bet Glass Slippers here at all?
I did not. So I ended up not betting her. I ended up making blended doubles with basically the horses that you said. But I did, Glass Slippers was in my A group of those horses. I didn't use the 14 into Pirates Punch. So again, trying to make a big score. I'll talk about Pirates Punch as we get to the dirt mile, but I made blended doubles going towards Pirates Punch out of this race.
These races are so nerve-wracking. I believe Glass Slippers is down towards the inside. And the interesting part about Glass Slippers is that, European horses do not do well in this race. And Sean Borman, who we've talked about a few times, a professional player in Lexington, found a way with the help of Rob Dove, who you've heard Pete talk about as the top pro punters in the UK today. With the help of him, made a figure for Glass Slippers last race. And that is why Sean liked the horse so much. He made a speed figure for his horse. And I think I said it on the podcast yesterday. I was on my way to Jake Ballas's house, and I was going to drive through the Chick-fil-A drive-through, and the line was too long. And so instead I called Sean to talk to him on the rest of the way. If I would have got Chick-fil-A, I would have been eating chicken minis. I wouldn't have called Sean. I wouldn't have used Glass Slippers. I'd have been really upset. So shout out to Sean for that one. So after this race, was a race that I don't know how strongly you bet. We hadn't talked about it yet, but I wanted to do something with Knicks Go and complexity. Mm-hmm. But I didn't love the surrounding races. The Filly and Mare turf was next. I didn't have a strong opinion, so I couldn't really do a lot of doubles there. I guess I could have double win bet, maybe pressing up Knicks Go a little bit, but I didn't feel like that had enough juice on it to get me where I wanted to go. Did you do anything in this race?
So I love Knicks Go. To a lesser extent, I like War of Will, in part because of, listening to like Paul Matisse on one of the podcasts talk about, him being a better dirt horse and getting back on dirt. If he improved off his 3-year-old numbers, he'd be very tough. And then I loved Pirates Punch, and I thought Pirates Punch had a bad ride at Oaklawn in the allowance race on Arkansas Derby Day, came back and ran that Stephen Foster, where it was an impossible race to begin with, but he made the lead, but they crawled. They didn't use his natural speed, so he wasn't ridden to win. And so then he went to Monmouth, and he, Warriors Charge won on the disqualification, but he was the better horse, and we weren't beating that horse. And, I thought if Warriors Charge in good form were in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, Warriors Charge would be less than 10-1. And so I thought Pirates Punch was going to be 30-1. Came back and won impressively at Monmouth again. I thought he was getting overlooked. He was fairly fast. And so I wanted to set up exactas with him and Knicks Go and War of Will. So I had a $900 exacta, Knicks Go over Pirates Punch, 250 with War of Will on top. I flipped Pirates Punch back on top. I was coming out of the turf sprint with a $75 double from Glass Slipper. So everything was Pirates Punch running well under Knicks Go and then War of Will. And you can see him right now. He's on the outside. He's in red on the outside in fourth. And so I was worried a little bit about Jorge Vargas, who I love. Vargas is an old Parks guy. But this is a pretty big mount riding in his first Breeders' Cup, riding at Keeneland. And here, my horse is in a great spot. At this point, I think I'm looking great. I'm like, well, Knicks Go is, it looks great out there. And I'm sitting there in fourth, but then he's working on the horse down the backside. And I'm like, well, so much for that. And
yeah,
they're going pretty fast, though. And
I know. I was a little nervous here because I was alive for 42,000 to Knicks Go and 20,000 to Complexity. And I didn't want my two chances ding-donging with each other and going 44 to the half. But right about here, Knicks Go starts to open up, and I took a deep breath. And I guess right about here, you started to realize Pirates Punch was going backwards.
Yeah, this is tough. And then, the other part of it was, I planned on, Knicks Go being one of the horses I focused on. I didn't have any cash on it. I had already been blown out of I would already been blown out of some of my multis. And so I was like, this horse is going to win at 9-5. And I don't have a dime on it because I was trying to get too cute. And after this race, I really, decided to sort of back off. Let's go back to the long run plan. But he ran huge, and he was coming out of that 3 other than at Keeneland, and I didn't consider that a negative. I think that Brad will go in those easy spots, build a horse's confidence. We remember this horse is a super talented 2-year-old, right? Ran really well in that juvenile. Had gone sour for Ben Colebrook. They'd given a lot of time. They've been very patient with, and that horse always had talent. Always has had this big race in it.
Right.
And
he liked Keeneland too. He ran right out Keeneland. Obviously people will talk about the big improvement, but it seemed like a horse that always felt like he had some talent. And not to knock Ben Colebrook either, but it's not like Brad Cox didn't win 5 races this weekend, 4 races. I mean, he's all over the place. So this was the point where I then had to start betting minimums. I just had to I had to bet every minimum. I had to bet every race the rest of the way at least $600, which actually comes into play when I was making my all-in double play. I remembered that I needed to save $600 to bet the Classic, or I would have lost 10,000 points. Did you do anything in these next couple of races? And while you're looking at your stuff, what I did in this race in the 7th, if I'm not mistaken, is I think I bet doubles with Mean Mary, Rushing Fall, and Sister Charlie. I think, just like $600 worth of like weighted doubles. And I missed this leg. So that was $600 down the drain.
So I guess I did realize in looking over my picks, I had a pretty big double from Knicks Go to Terabellum. Terabellum was, again, European horse. My contact, Pat Cummings, with his European contacts, they really liked. And so, I made a big double from Knicks Go into Terabellum. And so I did end up betting Terabellum under Rushing Fall in exactas. I actually don't, I was looking over my bets. I don't remember making these bets, but I guess at this point, I was still, I still had 20 grand. So I was, was taking some shots here. And so, again, I was live to big double to Terabellum, and I made some exactas behind Rushing Fall as a saver. And it was at this point, I don't even remember the horse's name that won, but at this point, it's really after this race, I'm like, okay, I'm sitting on my hands now, right?
Yeah.
But this horse winning, it shaved down my pick 6 to a very small amount, small number of legs alive, and then it sawed off all my other multis.
And then on to the sprint. I didn't have a strong opinion there. I guess the strongest opinion I have is that if Vekoma would have been in the race, he would have won by 3. That's my strongest opinion. I played doubles with CZ Rocket and Firenze Fire, and missed here as well, just for the minimum.
I was interested in Yalpan, but I just soured on him more and more. He would have to get loose on the lead on a fairly slow pace, and I didn't see much speed, and I thought the result of that was there'd be a lot of speed and that horses would go. So I ended up playing, and I didn't even use a minimum here. I just ended up playing a little bit on a couple $100 on Hog Creek Hustle, just thinking that if the race collapsed, he might make a big run and it would be an extraordinary price. But I had no clue on this race. I'm absolutely thrilled for Ron Moquette and Whitmore. I've always loved Whitmore. I loved him this winter at Oaklawn, and I just got off the train too soon. I bet him back multiple times, but after his last race at Keeneland, I was done with him. And this turned out to be very costly because it just, it really eliminated the pick 6 for us. And in part, because the next race went so wacky, it knocked us totally out of the pick 6 for a sequence where we basically went single the last 3 races. So that was frustrating. But again, if there was a horse I was rooting for, it was Ron, and it was Whitmore. I did when he crossed the wire at 17-1. It's him at 17-1 and Fire at Will at 30-1. Right, when they crossed the wire, you had this sort of sinking feeling. You're like, we really let these horses go. We really let that Maker Juvenile go off at 30-1.
If Kendrick wouldn't have been on Fire at Will, you wouldn't have let that one slip away.
No, exactly. But so that made it hard. But I didn't have very much money on it.
What about in the mile? I'm assuming I know you well enough to know that you did not do anything crazy here. It's a turf
No,
race, and I know that we both like to lean a little bit harder on the dirt. Anything here? I think I bet doubles with Siskin, Digital Age, and Uni out and missed here as well.
I bet a minimum. I bet a $600 show bet. I don't even remember who I bet. They're probably still running. After, and this is gonna sound crazy. After the after the dirt mile, I really thought about like, going for a walk or doing something else because the Philly Mare turf, the sprint, and this mile, I had no opinion on the mile. I barely even watched the mile. I looked up in order of Australia was winning. I'm like, well, I would have never had these horses. I think I had a little bit, if I looking back on it, a little bit on Lope E. Fernandez, because Pete had mentioned him. I had a little double from him into Monomoy Girl and a double from, I don't even remember the 6 horse, whoever that is. Probably
Safe Voyage.
Yeah.
Safe
So
Voyage.
so those 2 euros, I had a little double in the Monomoy Girl, but I didn't at this point, my bankroll was down and I didn't want to, I didn't want to screw it up. I wanted to, I knew I was going all in a Monomoy Girl. I was just like, let's get to that race and put us in that spot.
So let's reset then before we get to obviously the one of the biggest, well, probably the biggest race for both of us. How much? I had $40,095, something like that, 40 and change, 41 and change after I had made all those minimums after getting to 42,000. How much did you have? How much did you go all in on?
I had 18,165 on one ticket. I had about $3,000 on the other ticket, and with the second ticket, I used Monomoy Girl over Point of Honor.
Okay.
So I tried to get Point of Honor in second or third. So focused on big exactas and tries, and then this 18,165, I went all in on Monomoy Girl.
Did you, now we've talked about this before, Marshall, and I obviously on the Breeders' Cup, it doesn't probably matter. Were you strategic about the time in which you bet that 18,000? Did you break it up or did you just pop it all in at once?
With the win pool, I popped it all in at once. I was surprised because usually, your ADW might not take more than $500 at a time, and I thought I'd be clicking, but I took the 18,165 exactly. I went in. I didn't worry about it. I figured it wasn't going to matter. The other thing that, I'm sure we'll talk about as we get to the Classic is I didn't want to get shut out, right? And so I wasn't going to sort of sit around the last minute. I figured that if I got 4 to 5, I was going to take 4 to 5. If I got 3 to 5, I was going to take 3 to 5. I didn't, I'm price sensitive. I don't want to say I'm not, but she projected to even money, projected 1.1. I figured I would get at least 4 to 5. I knew there's going to be some Swiss Skydiver buzz. Look, I had planned to go all in on Monomoy Girl this summer. So when Midnight Bisou went out of the race, I was disappointed, right? Because I was like, well, this is going to hurt my price when I go all in on Monomoy Girl. So this had been months in the making. She was training great. I mean, they weren't. Brad is so emotional and so, such a vested interest in this horse. They weren't going to lead her over here to lose.
I did something funny. I went over to where Saul Koonman was, and I said, I told Saul what I was going to do because I just wanted to look him in the eye and see if he looked at me like, really? Or geez, but he got excited. And some of the other partners got excited. Then I went down to the paddock and I found Liz, and I went up to Liz Crow, who bought Monomoy Girl. And I said, and she's obviously very special to her. And Liz looked like a ball of emotion. She was very nervous. And I said, Liz, I'm going to bet 40,000 on the big girl. And her eyes lit up like, go do it. And then I went back upstairs. I went and opened the ADW and just hit 5,000 a couple times until I got down towards the bottom. And then I did bet $1,700 on Cece, who went off at 14-1. And the reason I did that is because Cece's a horse I've always liked. A horse that I remember Michael McCarthy saying she wanted a tighter Kentucky racetrack. She wasn't going to love when she went back out to California after the apple blossom. And I wanted to have something left. I had gotten to 42. I wanted to have something left. That 1,700 to win on Monomoy Girl was not changing my life. Mm-hmm. And so I went ahead and used some of it on CC. But as you'll see here, I didn't need that Monomoy Girl was you nervous about the trip?
Yeah, but I figured she'd have so much fight in her, it wouldn't matter. And I was, watching and trying to cheer on Point of Honor. I tell you what, she wasn't going to let them get her. She has a lot of fight, but Valiant's ran really, really well and was wider than her. And so I was never nervous. I thought, especially when Swiss Skydiver got up poorly and she was stalking wide, I thought she was going to get the perfect trip. The rail having been good Friday made me nervous, but it didn't. It seemed to be a little bit more neutral on Saturday. And so, when she got the lead at this point, I knew she was just too tough to let them pass her. And, I'd already accepted the fact that if she lost, I was going to be out. And so I was pleased I stuck with my plan here, whether she won or whether she lost. Right. I think it was I stuck with my plan. It was the right bet. It was my bet. I was making this bet in July. Right.
And that's the great thing about the Breeders' Cup Betting Challenge is that, if Marshall and I would have done what we did here on a Saturday at Santa Anita, or anywhere at Gulfstream, it's even at Saratoga, the horse would drop down to 2-5, 1-5, and so there's so much money in the pool. Oh, yeah. It's why this is my favorite contest. You don't have to think about that. You don't have to think about, I wonder if I'm going to change the price. We put the money, I bet when it was 4-5, I bet 40,000 when it was 4-5. And when they broke from the gate, I went up, which is, it's the beauty of this contest and why I like it so much. So much more than any other contest that's available to us as horse players.
Well, it's also such a great race day, right? Because you can basically, you're getting great prices. Like you're saying, you get 14-1 on CC. If you liked Swiss Skydiver, that was 5-2, or, you were getting great prices. And so you get great price. And look, we're both chalk players and you're getting great prices on chalk this whole weekend, 9-5 on Nick's Go. And so, I put so much in on Monomoy Girl. I didn't bet her with cash, which was a mistake. I should have. And I didn't, I was out of the pick 6 because of Order of Australia. I was out of 5 of 6 as well. And I didn't circle back on a pick 3 or anything. So my cash wagering kind of went to hell today because you get so wrapped up in the contest. But yeah, doubled 18,165 to 36,330, and this is again, I was making this bet in July.
So now this is where we went different paths. This is where this is a strategy that I tried back when Accelerate won. I was alive for 4 horses, probably to win, 3 or 4 horses to probably win. Don't know what everyone else had, but probably to win. McKinsey and
I'm pretty certain you would have won.
Right. I think so too. I think so, but it didn't work out there. And part of my strategy with that is not that year, but I wanted to try to pop Enable that year. With this year, what I wanted to do is I had that 78,000 and I wanted to try to protect as much of that as I could in a safe way, but also giving myself opportunities if I was right to be able to win. But I didn't want it to be an all or nothing situation. So what I did, and people have asked, why didn't you just bet the 78,000 on Tarnawa? And the reason I didn't is because I had a lot of coverage. I had 2, 3, 9, and 10. So I had Magical, Tarnawa, Channel Maker, and Mogul into 4 horses in the Classic, which were Tis the Law, Tom's d'Etat, Improbable, and Authentic. And I put a little chart together because I wanted just to explain a couple of these. The lowest possible payout and the worst combination for that for me would have been $21,000. So if it comes Magical and Tis the Law, which is not an opinion I would have wagered any large amount of money on, I make $1,900 on the weekend. I go home and I'm not wanting to jump off a cliff. Now, some people might say, well, what if that money I could have used to hit the exacta that would have beat you? That's hindsight, but we don't know that. But I want to go over a couple of places based on what the final score was, if some things would have changed. And I know that they could have changed some things, but if it would have came 2-4, which would have been Magical and Tom's d'Etat, I would have got 8th. That would have took me to $60,000. If it would have come 2-8, I would have got 7th. If it would have come 3-2, 5th, 3-8, 1st. 3-4 or 3-8, I would have won 253 or 293. And even though you bet Improbable, if Improbable would have won, my doubles would have been
Yes, better.
Would have been bigger. There's some 9-4s. 9-4, 9-8 would have put me in the top 10, which is Channel Maker with Tom's d'Etat. And then even 10-2, 10-4, 10-8, and 10-9 theoretically put me in the top 10 too. 49,000, 107,000, 154,000, 66,000. So yes, I woke up the next day thinking, damn, if I would have just bet $400 more on that double, if I wouldn't have been, I didn't really like Magical that much. It was more of a fearful play. If I would have just not used Magical at all, but like you said, it's hindsight. So that's kind of my play explained. Now, did you do anything in this race?
So I did $600 to show on Tarnawa Tarnawa. Like I said, I was camping out all summer to bet Monomoy Girl. I was also camping out all summer to bet Zulu Alpha. So I could not wait to bet Zulu Alpha, and I was really excited about Zulu Alpha when he finished second to Arklow at Kentucky Downs, and then he got hurt. So I don't know that I would have played Zulu Alpha to win because I was worried about the Euros, but I felt he was the best American, and thought I was going to get double digits when he went down to Arklow. So this race I like Tarnawa quite a bit, or I didn't like him. My contacts liked him quite a bit.
That's an important part I want to say too. Is for me. This was not a, Jonathan watched these races all year opinion on Tarnawa. I thought she was the most likely winner. I pressed her up in all my situations, but I talked to Pat Cummings, who liked her a lot. I talked to Sean, who did some figure stuff. I talked to the Matisse brothers, who did some visual stuff, and I talked to Nick Luck, who liked Tarnawa. So the idea that I'm going to bet $78,000 on what 6 other people think and just ride it out on that. That's another reason why I kind of approached this race the same way I did. This was someone else's opinion, not mine.
Yeah, look, but those are all excellent handicaps, and those people did the homework. And I couldn't even tell you what races Tarnawa ran in this year, whether they were in France or in England. But I know that when Pat felt very strongly about the horse, and I got confirmed by listening to Nick Luck and Sean, that this is the horse I was going to use. Now, I would have liked to have been in a better position to be able to, use Tarnawa a little bit more, but I wanted all the money I could from my exactas. So if I had 50, 60, 70, I might have played him a little bit more. But, look, I bet 600 the show. I got 1,200 back. And, she showed an incredible turn of foot. I mean, they go in a mile and a half.
I know.
It's really breathtaking. And, you're watching it here and they're going slow. And I'm like, are they going to let Channel Maker, who, kind of has had a very nice year, but, I would have thought would have been a B teamer last year. At this point, I thought he looked really good. Just loping along there like his last couple races.
Yeah, this is a situation where you look in the top right corner up there, you'll see the NBC logo, and then to the left of it, you'll see the fractions were being marked as slow. They were not going fast. And if you're new to racing and you happen to fall into this hour-long podcast with us two nerds talking about betting on horses and a circle and all this math, Tarnawa, the 3 and the Green Silks is at a really disadvantageous place trying to catch all of those horses that are seemingly meant to have more energy at this point because they didn't work too hard. I was nervous. At this point, I started to think, you know what? Channel Maker's going to get away. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to walk away from this thing with like $20,000 and good run, And then that changed right about here.
Yeah, I don't think I even picked it up here, right? It was about here where I thought, okay, now she's moving. And and then even Magical, I mean, I don't know what Channel Maker, I don't know what sort of happened there, but then they all just sort of, scooped him up. But that was something else. I mean, that was, we don't see that often in U.S. racing. After a mile and a half, that horses are able to explode like that, and just, go past all those other horses, with that kind of nice short stretch, turn of foot. So it was impressive. And so, but for me, it was like I cashed my show bet. So I was like, as long as she finishes, once she got going, I was like, okay, finish third, that'd be good, right? I think I bet 100 to win on her again. But mainly trying to get us to the big one.
So this was the point. It's actually funny too. If you wouldn't hit that show bet, if you would not have made that show bet, would you have had enough money? Would you have still bet 7,500 on the exacta that you went on to hit?
So that's hard to tell. So my exact, my key horse is still Authentic. So I don't know. I was anything with Authentic, I wanted to get to 200. So I would say yes. I might have taken a lower number on Improbable and Tom. So, with Authentic, I wanted 200.
Right.
So, I thought it would take 200 to win or to have a good shot at winning.
Now, is that because you thought that when you said you wanted to get 200, is that because you thought if Authentic was going to win, that other people were going to get to 180, 190? Or did you just want to get to 200 with him?
Well, no, I thought they would get, I thought, there are people up there with 130, 140, they put 10 grand on Authentic and they're right there. Right. And I thought, or they do this exact, and I really thought, and we both have said this, I thought this is a 4-horse exacta race. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And Authentic was the best price of those horses. And so it just took one of those people ahead of us betting 10, 15 grand to win on Authentic. Or betting, some version of the exacta I played to where, they were going to get up to 170, 180, 190. I did not anticipate that they would not go to 130, 140. I didn't, and maybe they were on the wrong horse. I just, I think after, what were you in? You were in third place at this point, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think I was in third.
Yeah.
78. I think I was in third. Maybe fourth. No, third.
I just thought there were going to be some big, even like a $30,000 or $40,000 all win bet. Now I know that Dave Portnoy was going to bet Authentic and ended up getting talked off and went all in on Improbable. Now we would have still beaten him, but he would have jumped up to 140, right? Yeah. So the thing is, I assume there would be other people like that. You have 40, 50 grand, you go all in on Authentic. Which I think is one of the reasonable 4 horses to have. So I felt strongly I had to get to 200 to have a chance to win. And I actually, and we talk about this after the race, I thought I'd lost when the number came back 170. And I was sort of sick to my stomach because I knew I'd had the day of my life, but I wanted to win.
Yeah. So let's talk about that 30 minutes because it was different, I think, for both of us. You were working and I was nervously excited because I couldn't do anything at that point. It was over. One of the things I did was I called the tournament director before Tarnawa because I didn't want to mess it up. And I asked for permission to bet my win bet in the final because I was going all in. And the adrenaline of betting $78,000, I just didn't want to have to remember to save 600 to bet the whatever. And so the reason that rule is even there so that people aren't hiding money from a leaderboard standpoint. And so I had gotten permission to do that. Other people had gotten permission to bet early because they had to leave or had to go to a baseball game or whatever. So it's not any funny business. So I went ahead and bet my 600. So I didn't have to worry about that. And I actually bet it on Improbable. Once they cross the wire for Tarnawa, the fun thing to do in these situations is to go to your Excel sheet and do the math on what you're alive for. If the 2 wins, it's this. And so I was alive to remind everyone, I was alive to Tis the Law for 124,000, Tom's d'Etat for 235, Improbable for 293, and Authentic for 161. So in that moment, I started thinking, okay, well, no one jumped up in that race. So 3 of those horses will get me the win. And then I started thinking, okay, who can I call and tell and talk to about it? And I said this on the podcast yesterday. The first person that popped in my mind was my dad. And if you weren't familiar, my dad is the one who introduced me to this game. And he recently passed a couple of weeks ago on October 17th. And he's that person I would have called to say, Dad, we're alive to whatever. And he would have been fired up and he would have asked me over and over again, well, no, hold on. What now? Dad, 2, 4, 8, and 9. Okay, so hold on. So what? And so that would have been a fun little deal. So once I didn't do that, I thought, well, let me call a couple of friends that I know. There's only so many people that that understand the struggle. And I called Marshall, and I'm so excited. I'm like, Marshall, I'm alive to. He goes, stop, whoa, Jonathan, stop. I'm about to try to beat you. Don't tell me who you have. And he cut me off. So.
Yeah, I didn't want you to, you start telling me these numbers. Well, that starts getting in my head. I start shooting for, I start know what to shoot for. I gotta say, even with 36 grand, I was at the point where I got to play what I wanted to play, so I thought I could win it. Right? I really felt very confident in my play.